Was this because of the story I was just telling you?
Yes.
Or me getting mugged? That's so funny.
No, it's not supposed to be funny.
But it kind of was.
Hold on. What's up, guys? Welcome to another episode of the Podcast. Today I have a very special guest. Last minute podcast, and she pulled through. So I have, so much appreciation and respect for that. You have no idea. So introduce yourself. Just tell the people your name and what you do before, we start this conversation.
Okay.
Yeah.
My name is Charlotte Simons. I'm from the Netherlands, 27 years old, and I'm a freelance journalist. I've been in Nairobi since September last year, and I'll be leaving the beginning of next week because I'm going to Kampala.
Leaving us.
Yeah, I might come back though. Who knows? I'm always coming back to Nairobi at some point. So.
We'll get to that. But from your post, I reached out, of course, definitely, because she posted these vegan pancakes, which I've never seen anybody having, and I was just curious, who is this person who's having just
who is vegan in Kenya?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So are you? Is that for health reasons or just something that you've been accustomed to?
No, I used to be a
you love
big
animals?
Meat eater. I love that. That's mainly the reason I stopped eating meat. So I was vegetarian for about a year first, a year and a half, and then one of my friends actually turned into a very avid animal rights activist out of nowhere. And she kind of converted me.
She forced you. She tricked you.
I mean, no, it was my decision. And I was becoming as extreme as her for a while. So I became an activist as well. I would
Really?
Yeah, I would chain myself to fences. I would jump into dolphin area, do all kinds of weird stuff.
Protests and everything.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, but then, I got arrested a couple times, but for some reason, I never got a criminal record. And then my sister moved to the US.
Yeah.
And I had to stop doing all of that because when you're a Dutch citizen and you have a criminal record, you cannot get a visa for the US. So if I wanted to go visit her, I had to
actually tone that
behave.
down. Yeah.
So that's why I stopped. But I was still vegan for up until last year somewhere. And then
You got some Kenyan influence in you, you're always eating meat everywhere.
Yes. Well, I don't eat meat anymore. I haven't eaten meat since 2011, I think.
Oh.
Yeah. So, but then I was traveling through Eastern Africa, and then I was eating cheese somewhere, and I'm like, this stuff is too good. I'll just stick to being vegetarian for now.
This stuff is too good.
Yeah. But I mean, veganism all the way. It's better for your health. Definitely.
Yeah, definitely. Or if you're eating, I think, meat, for me, I try and stick to white meat most of the time.
That's better.
Yeah, and then with age, as you age, you just want to take care of yourself as well. If you hear this is not good for your body,
Yeah, I don't really pay attention to that.
Oh, wow. Okay. Thanks for supporting.
I eat shit.
Thanks for supporting the direction where I was going to try and maneuver in a very different way. Yeah, and I also didn't realize you're that tall because when I was reaching out in your pictures, pictures have a lot of stuff that's.
Didn't you see me standing next to my friends and you were like,
just thought
she's towering over everybody?
I just thought your friends are short, and you can always choose to have short friends so that you can boss them around. That's what I thought. Yeah, that's what I thought.
I do that too. No, but yeah, I'm from the Netherlands, like I just said.
Is everyone super tall there? Or
the people there are the tallest people in the world on average.
So this is normal height probably.
No, it's not normal. I'm still pretty tall for a Dutch person. I was 6 feet by the time I was 12, so that's not very normal.
Jeez, 12. You're 6 feet. 12 years old.
Yeah, and I was also very skinny, so that just looked weird.
Hey, listen, it's all for a reason, at least. And like I was saying, just behind the camera, before we started rolling, I hope at least you participated in some sports that were beneficial to your school and friends.
Nah.
Yeah, that's why we go with a waste of height again. See, if it was for me, by now I'd have been playing for the NBA. No.
I could have been a model, but I was too fat, so that wasn't gonna happen.
This is good, thanks. Wait, what? You could have been a what?
Well, I was maybe I could have been a model, but I was too fat anyway.
Says who?
I mean, like, I don't consider myself to be fat, but I'm too fat to be a model.
Oh, but in Europe, the whole thing with models, like, you have to be super, super skinny, but there's
Preferably. Yeah.
But there's a new wave right now for,
That's
like,
true.
you know, a little bit of, like, plus. And it's not like you're big. You're just like, I don't know. I don't know the right words to describe. Because, you know, I don't want to offend anyone. Thick. Yeah, no, curvy, yeah. Like, you know, Fashion Nova Curve, they have a segment for that.
They do.
Yeah, do you buy their clothes?
I should get sponsored by them.
Oh, you'd do well. You'll do well in that category. Now, speaking of which, the podcast is all about the 4 pillars of life: health, wealth, love, and happiness.
Yeah.
And even just from, okay, first of all, you said you don't pay attention to what you're eating.
No, look at me. You're having a salad, I'm having my pancakes.
Pancakes, there we go. So health, wealth, love, and happiness. And different people just have different journeys and different experiences to what they shape them to, who they actually are, their beliefs, and just how they maneuver in life. So what persuaded you to get into, for which company do you work for, first of all?
Well, I'm freelancing right now, so I work for all kinds of companies. Yeah. But I used to be a junior editor for Vice back home. Yeah.
And you know what? I love Vice. So that when I saw the Vice thing on your Instagram, I was like, yo, listen, we have to sit down. The last resort would have been for me to come with my setup to where you are. But I've been like, you know what? Let me just try and tell her to actually come to the location so that, you know, she's not getting any special treatment. Even though it's her last week in Kenya.
Don't get special treatment.
Yeah. I was just like, you know, everybody else, we need to be equal here. But so, just speaking of freelancing for Vice and all these other companies, do you do writing? Do you do documentary? What kind of journalism do you do? Writing?
Yeah, writing. Writing articles. But I maybe one day will expand to doing television or, you know, like working behind the scenes of producing a documentary. I don't know.
So you've never done any of those?
Nope.
That's crazy.
I've done research for documentaries that were...
So not even voiceover or...
No. Maybe
why?
People tell me you have a good voice for doing voiceovers.
I'm listening to your voice right now. And even just how you're talking about the kind of conversation that we're about to have and everything, just from the intro to now, just shows like you have a little bit of character that, you know, you can tap into. Yeah,
maybe. But I think, like, right now I'm used to hearing my voice on tape because I always tape my interviews and I listen back to them, so that's fine. But seeing my own dumb face on camera, like, I hate it.
What do you mean?
Can't deal
with
it.
What are you saying?
I don't like this at all.
What? And you have like even nice pictures on your Instagram and everything. I mean, come on, tap into that.
Filters.
No, I'm seeing you in real life. Actually, really good looking, tall, and everything. Have a lot going on. Let's just keep it at that for now and just go back to professionalism on the podcast. And yeah, I also saw like, you know, you can actually speak Swahili as well.
Kidogo.
Najua
Kiswahili kidogo. Lakini nimesahau mengi.
Okay, now when you start now actually making a sentence, now you fuck everything up.
No. Don't continue.
Because now I'm like, now she actually can't speak Swahili.
Usually I can pick up topics that people are talking about, but usually it's too fast for me to understand the entire conversation. Yeah. But I usually know when people are talking about me because, like, especially guys, they will call me Twiga. Like talking about my height, like why is this girl so tall? Why is her hair so dark for a Mzungu? So usually I can pick up on those things, but
because you hear it repeatedly, right?
Yes, everywhere.
So how is it like? Because I want to know how you got into the writing thing and everything, and just the journalism part. How is it like just growing up in the Netherlands? In just the education system and pursuing like what you're doing right now, because what's happening in Kenya, you find like a lot of people graduating from one kind of like education specification,
Yeah.
and then they end up like practicing something completely different. Is this like what you studied?
It actually is. So I finished secondary school, and then I didn't really know what I was gonna do. So I just signed up for what is it called in English? Like general cultural sciences at the university in Amsterdam. And I was doing that for a year, and I didn't really put much effort into it because I just didn't care that much.
Wow.
Like I cared about all the topics they were talking about, but they were all very focused and centered on Europe and the Western world. And by that time I was already traveling through Africa, and I was
Interested in
far
other
more
things.
interested in other continents than I was in Europe. And then I finished that first year, and then one of my friends told me that I could also go study African languages and cultures. There's one university in Holland where you can do that. So I quit immediately, and then I transferred to another university, and then I started doing Africa studies. And then I
That's a
minored.
thing.
It is a thing, yeah.
What?
Yeah. And then
So what do you study in African cultures?
I was mostly focusing, usually you pick out a region that you're most interested in and you focus on that region. So I was always mainly focused on Uganda, Kenya, Tanzania. Mainly culture, linguistics, history. It's very broad. So because Africa, of course, is humongous, so it's impossible to become an expert in the entirety of Africa. It's impossible.
For me, I'm just thinking like it's so intriguing that there's actually a country somewhere where they have a specific class that they can actually teach people about Kenya.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So I think they have that in most Western countries, though. You can usually study Africa studies if you want to, but there's not many people doing it.
And then what do you do after you study like those African countries? Like how do you make like your paycheck now?
Many people end up working for NGOs, or they start working for European companies that are wanting to invest in an African country, but they have trouble getting along with the people
now
because
they
of
need
cultural
somebody who's
differences.
tapped into
Right. But then I was never really interested in working in the NGO world, and I'd always been
We'll
writing.
We'll get to that. It's very interesting. Yeah, go on.
Very skeptical.
Yeah. Go on. You're
And
into
then-
writing?
Yeah, I was always into writing, and then someone said, maybe you can make your living out of this. And I was like, ugh, whatever. But then I had to pick something that I was going to minor in, and then I just signed up for journalism. And started doing an internship at Vice. That's how I ended up there. Because I'd written a piece before I started interning at Vice that went viral in my country that was about racism in the Netherlands. And they were like, oh, you're the girl who wrote the piece on racism in Holland. Yeah, you can
It's
come. I don't know if it's still around. This was years ago.
Oh, when you're like just starting off, probably uni days and stuff.
Yeah.
Okay.
So they knew me from that piece, and then they said, yeah, you can come intern for us. So I did that. And then writing turned out to be something I was good at. So I just continued doing it.
You ran with it.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Are you comfortable eating on camera, like with the chewing noises and stuff, or can you?
No, I'm kind of like leaning towards when I'm chewing. I'm kind of like leaning towards.
Right.
And I'm just eating like one piece at a time. So because I feel
That's
sorry for the
wise.
people who are listening.
I know, it's so
people who are
gross.
listening. It's just it's just not right to take people through it when they're trying to listen to something that's actually something that is interesting or supposed to be important. So, getting into the journalism world, of course, you're interested in writing and everything. Oh wow, I'm just going to pour all that.
I told you I eat like shit.
What?
Proving it to you right
This
now.
is insane. What?
Leave me alone. Continue.
So those people who can't see and you're listening, she just poured like a whole bowl of syrup like through the pancakes. It just looks like madness. I'd get a heart attack from just taking a bite of that.
I can take it.
Oh, okay. So, what intrigued you specifically about like just Uganda and Kenya? Because that's what you chose to actually study.
Yeah. So, very long story short, So I grew up in the south of Holland, which is not very urban. There's not a lot to do there. I was bored most of the time, and I used to live on an island when I grew up.
What do you mean? That's the most beautiful thing that you can ever ask for.
It's beautiful over there, but then you don't really know the weather in Holland. It's raining most of the time.
Oh, so it's not like our
it's not
kind
like a
of
tropical island.
Oh, it's not like our
God,
Zanzibar
no.
or Mombasa.
I wish.
Okay, yeah, then that would be sad for me as well. Yeah.
So I grew up in a little village, and then in the village right next to me was my boyfriend was living there at the time, my ex-boyfriend, and he was fully African. He grew up in Holland, but his mom was from Congo, his dad was from Sierra Leone, but was also half Nigerian, so he had a very diverse background. But he had grown up in a very wide environment, so he didn't really know much about where his parents came from. And then we started dating when I was 17, almost 18. He was 2 years older. Yeah. And then I was kind of intrigued by where he came from, but he couldn't tell me anything about it because he didn't know.
He didn't know it?
No, he didn't know.
Yeah.
So then I just started reading myself, reading books, watching documentaries. And then eventually I completed secondary school when I was 19, and then I decided, I want to go to Africa and save the world. But I didn't know where to start. I didn't know anything. So I decided to contact some, company in Holland that was organizing these volunteer trips to sub-Saharan Africa, and then they had a couple countries that they had projects in. And I decided to choose Malawi for some reason. I thought out of all the countries on the list, Malawi was the poorest, so I thought they could probably use the help the most over there. That was my reasoning behind it. And then I convinced my boyfriend at the time to go with me. He was like, I don't want to go. So I whined until he was like, okay, I'll go with you.
He actually came through with you?
Yes, so we went there together for about a month. We did the voluntary work, which made no sense at all. Like, it wasn't helping at all. It was just, I think it was mainly focused on, giving the volunteers a good feeling about themselves and you've done so much for us, but it was actually not contributing at all.
We'll get to that. To that.
So, but even though I knew that the work that I was doing made no sense at all, I kind of fell in love with Malawi and the people, and then my ex and I met a guy that we eventually befriended, a Malawian guy. His name is Wayne, and he wanted to finish secondary school, but he didn't have the financial means. So then he was like, "Sure, can you help me out?" I'm like, "Yeah, well, I'm a student and I don't have any money, so I can't really help you, but I can try to set something up for you to earn money." So he would send me bracelets that he would make himself, and then I would sell them for him, and with the money that he gathered, he was able to finish secondary school. And then from there out, I just wanted to see more of Africa below the Sahara. And I visited Uganda, and then after having visited Uganda, I started doing the Africa Studies thing at university. So I had only seen like very small parts of Africa before I started doing that course at university, but that's how I got interested in the continent.
At least in the continent.
Yes.
And just in general, I mean, when it comes to things like travel, are there not any other places that you now currently like just enjoy traveling to? Or like your heart is just won by Africa?
Yeah, I've always said I want to see or at least part of every African country before I die. So that's that's on your list.
On
my to-do list. But like I said, my sister lives in the US, so I usually go there a lot. Usually.
So if it's not US, Africa.
Yeah. I've never seen any part of Asia. Planning to, though.
Ever?
No, I've never been to Asia. I've never been to South America. Yeah, so there's still a lot to see for me.
Africa is beautiful, but as long as you're already traveling, you can always just move around and see what's up.
Yeah.
But definitely Africa is special because I think there's still so much culture and things like are still evolving and everything.
Yeah, and it's so diverse
It's
as well.
so diverse.
Yeah.
And how, because I saw somewhere you say that Uganda is like your favorite.
Yeah.
I was just like disappointed. I was just like, what?
Kenya is a close second, though.
What? Yeah, of course, we can definitely tell Kenya is second. Oh, okay, how comes? Why Uganda?
I think in some ways Kampala is kind of, because I used to live in Kampala, that's why I mainly resided.
Yeah.
I think Kampala in some ways is comparable to Nairobi, but it's just smaller and a little safer. And I have a lot of friends there, so that helps. And then also when you're stuck in traffic in Kampala, it's usually not more for than half an hour. Whereas here you can be stuck in traffic for 3 hours.
You know, I was trying to figure out, like, you know, how you're going to get here.
Right. I meant to take a boda, but the guy didn't show up, so then I had to order.
No, but today is the perfect. Apparently, there's no traffic anywhere.
Why?
That's the thing. Why? Please, the government, explain to us why there's no traffic today. Already used to it.
They did this especially for you.
But, you know, yeah, of course, you've said your friends and all those things that, you know, keep you grounded with the Ugandans.
I think Kampala's just, in some ways, kind of like a friendlier version of Nairobi.
Really?
Yeah.
Are people more friendly than Kenyans?
I mean...
Or in what sense?
No, not the people necessarily, but you just feel a little bit safer.
Yeah, because like, you know, Nairobi, everybody's like hustling. Especially like right now, everybody's just hustling and, you know, even if when somebody's smiling at you, you wouldn't really know their kind of intentions. Yeah, but
what do they want?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I was saying, and I was talking to my friend, like, it's gotten to a point where like, we're just like so traumatized with everything that's fast-paced going on, and we're trying to keep up with everything that even when somebody's just being nice to you, like they say, like, you know, how are you? How's your day?
Yeah.
Like, what?
Are
they trying? Are they trying to set me up? What's going on? So yeah, but that's Nairobi for you. That's Nairobi, and I completely understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
But in general, how would you say, like, just Africa has impacted you as a person? Because you talk as if, like, you know, you have, like, it has like a soft spot on you. Yeah. How has it like impacted you? Because, you know, I know you're not up for the whole NGO thing, which we'll get to that. But I can still see, like, you know, it's definitely like won your heart somehow.
Yeah, definitely.
Plus, you've liked, you know, like, you know, African boys from a young age. I can say that. Yeah. So I mean, I'm just saying, like, okay, apart from the boys, what else? What else?
Kenyan man, no.
No.
Go.
What?
I've dated a few Kenyans. It was not a success.
Come on.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You're lying.
I dated the wrong ones.
Yeah, you know.
Probably.
Because that's the thing. You pick all the wrong ones, and then now it's like everybody has to be put in like the same basket with all these other idiots who've ruined everything for us. Come on.
But I mean, I would usually, whenever I'm in Kenya, I'm usually dating athletes because they're only people that are taller than I am.
So you
Like
can't date a short guy?
Kenyan guys, well,
Most Kenyan guys are short?
shorter than I am.
Okay, yeah,
I
you're
would say
6. You're 6.
6'1".
So what's 6'1"?
Yeah.
So what's your cutoff point? For somebody to qualify, what's the cutoff point?
Like maybe 6 feet. Nah, like
6?
maybe if they come up like this would be the max.
Come on, as long as you're not leaning down to hug someone or carrying them when you're, you know,
I don't know.
making
it just
out
makes
with
me
them.
feel very uncomfortable. Yeah.
Okay, now we'll get that when we get to the dating segment. We have a lot to talk about when we get to that. But what's the, how would you say, like, it's just impacted you in general? Because you do sound like you legit do care about
So it
just
has
the continent.
Yeah, it has affected my entire career path, of course. Also with the book that I'm writing right now, which we'll probably cover later.
Yeah, we will.
I always feel like Africa is such a misunderstood continent back home. Like people even think that people think when I tell them that I live in Nairobi that I live in a little Maasai house, you know?
You're lying.
And then I show
That's
them
not possible.
And then I show them pictures of the Nairobi skyline. And they're like, "This is in Africa."
You're lying.
People are just.
But how's that
so
possible?
dumb.
Because we have internet. Come on.
Yeah, but we don't get taught a lot of stuff about Africa in secondary school.
Oh, they don't. So not unless it's personal interest, you wouldn't.
No, you wouldn't really know.
How about like things like, because I know like now Afrobeats is super huge
True.
in Europe.
In Europe
Don't
as
people
well.
do like research about like, no, they just like the music, but I assume this music is made in huts or
yeah, and
in
then
villages.
The thing that annoys me is that there's a lot of white guys back home who start producing Afrobeats, and I'm like, maybe just don't. And then they start playing their gigs and they wear dashikis and stuff, and I'm like,
Wow.
no.
Nothing wrong with that, by the way. But it's not the same. Like, even from you, it's not the same. But from anybody who's in Africa, they're like, you know what? You're actually pushing the envelope, and people are starting to embrace and love the culture. Or is it in a different way?
I mean, they love certain aspects about African cultures, I guess, but they don't really.
Pick what's trendy, what's edgy, what's
the
like
music,
what's
the
the
clothing,
Mhm.
right? But they don't really have a genuine interest in the
in
people.
Africa and the people.
Yeah,
That's okay. That's
is what I notice.
mhm.
And
So yeah, we're talking about
Yeah.
like the impact that Africa has, like just made on you.
yeah, so I'm usually trying to. It's funny because whenever people always ask me, like, "Oh, you live in Africa," and I'm like, "Do you know how big Africa is? There's 54 countries."
It's insane.
And then they like some people genuinely think that Africa is a country.
And that's madness now, because
It happens.
but you see, the thing is, when we say it like that, it sounds ridiculous. But if somebody thinks like that, it just shows like, they're definitely not interested in anything else, probably apart from their surrounding. They just don't care about
No,
anything.
and I was interning for a Dutch TV channel for a while, which is one of the biggest networks in the Netherlands, and we were producing all the topics related to Africa. And then the guy that I was working with was a Dutch guy living in Johannesburg, so I was staying in Johannesburg for a while, working for him. And then he got a little cynical over time because he would always pitch these great ideas about all kinds of topics, showing a different side of Africa to the Netherlands. But then his bosses would always be like, "No, people don't care. The only thing that they want to see is either crying hungry kids or
That's
elephants."
true. Well, that's true.
There's nothing in between.
But you see, there's so
People
much,
care about.
but there's so much more, and I
Yeah.
think that's why, let's say, the way you're talking about being a freelance, it's up to you now to actually paint a different narrative
Yeah.
or just showcase a different part of Africa.
Yeah, and I try to.
Because your experiences are definitely, I can say, they're very different from what I've seen, like just on your. Because, like, I think even like 2 episodes ago, we're talking about the poverty porn thing, and
That is a big thing.
it is,
Yeah.
but I didn't even know, because it didn't even cross my mind at all, because I've been hired so many times to take these pictures.
Have you never seen groups of white people doing tours through Kibera,
I have.
taking pictures of?
We talked about that on the podcast, and I'll tag you on that conversation.
Okay.
We talked, and Larry Madowo he's one of like a top journalists in Kenya. He was being asked in a BBC segment in UK about like poverty porn, his thoughts,
Yeah.
and was saying like, what, we have a whole industry dedicated to that, and people can actually
True.
come tour, and if you feel sorry enough for a kid, you can tip them with £1 or 2 or 3,
Right.
give them a smile and keep it moving.
Yeah.
And take a picture for Instagram. And then in my mind I was just like, oh shit, I've been hired to do this like in the past, and I was actually part of that. But
In what way were you a part of this? Like what
I
would
was
happen?
hired to take pictures of people with the kids. Yeah, I've done it like enough times in the past, but now I can't do it.
No, I get it.
But,
I
but
get
it
why.
depends with a check. No, but I'm just saying, it's something that